In a quiet, picturesque village surrounded by rolling hills, there lived a young woman named Eliza. She was the daughter of a farmer, known throughout the village for her kindness, beauty, and the quiet strength she carried. Her days were simple, filled with the rhythm of farm life, tending to the animals, working in the fields, and helping her mother with household chores. Although her life was modest, Eliza often found herself dreaming of something more, something beyond the fields and the familiar faces of the village. One day, news spread through the village of a new arrival, a young man named Thomas, who had come from a distant city. He rented a small cottage on the edge of the forest, saying he sought peace and solitude to work on his writing. Thomas was different from the villagers. He was well-dressed but unassuming, with a quiet, thoughtful manner that set him apart. The villagers were curious but kept their distance, respecting his desire for privacy. Eliza first encountered Thomas at the village market. He was selecting apples with a careful hand when their eyes met. They exchanged polite greetings, and something in his warm, intelligent gaze sparked her interest. He seemed unlike any man she had ever met. His voice was gentle, his speech refined, and he had an air of mystery that intrigued her. As the days passed, their paths crossed more frequently. They began to speak, at first casually, and then more deeply. Thomas shared stories of far-off cities, of books he had read, and ideas that opened Eliza's mind to worlds she had never imagined. Eliza, in turn, spoke of her life in the village, the simplicity, the beauty of the changing seasons, and her dreams of something beyond her reach. They would meet by the river, in the meadows, and on the woodland paths, where their conversations stretched long into the golden evenings. Soon, their friendship blossomed into something more. Eliza felt her heart pulling her closer to Thomas with each passing day, and it seemed he felt the same. They shared moments of quiet intimacy, holding hands as they walked, exchanging soft smiles that spoke of a love growing between them. But as the summer turned to autumn, Eliza noticed a change in Thomas. He became more distant, more preoccupied, as if something weighed heavily on his mind. One evening, as the first chill of autumn crept into the air, Thomas invited Eliza to his cottage. It was a simple place, filled with books and papers, a reflection of his scholarly pursuits. They sat by the fire, the warmth of the flames casting a soft glow around them. For a while, they spoke of trivial things, but Eliza could sense that something was troubling Thomas. Finally, he turned to her, his expression serious.
Eliza,
He began, his voice tinged with an emotion she couldn't quite place.
there's something I need to tell you, something I should have told you from the start.
Eliza's heart tightened. She had feared this moment, knowing deep down that Thomas was keeping something from her.
I am not who you think I am.
He continued, his voice heavy with regret.
My name is not just Thomas. I am Lord Thomas Harrington, the heir to a noble estate far from here. I came to this village to escape my responsibilities, to live a life free of the expectations placed on me by my family. But now those responsibilities have caught up with me.
Eliza felt as if the ground had shifted beneath her. She had suspected Thomas was different, but she never imagined this. Her mind raced, trying to reconcile the man she had come to love with this new reality.
I never meant to deceive you.
Thomas said, his eyes pleading with her to understand.
I just wanted to be free for a while, to live a life of my own choosing, even if only for a short time. But I never expected to meet you, Eliza. You've made me question everything I thought I wanted.
Eliza struggled to find her voice.
What does this mean, Thomas? For us?
Eliza's world seemed to crumble around her. The man she loved, the future she had dared to dream of, was slipping away, all because of a truth he had hidden from her.
I understand.
she whispered, her voice breaking. She could see the anguish in Thomas's eyes, but it did nothing to soothe the ache in her heart.
You have your responsibilities and I have mine.
Thomas reached out to take her hand, but Eliza pulled away. The pain was too raw, the wound too deep. She stood, her eyes filling with tears she refused to let fall.
This is goodbye then.
She said softly, the finality of the words cutting through the room like a blade. Thomas stood as well, his face pale with regret.
I'm so sorry, Eliza. I never wanted it to end like this.
But Eliza knew there was nothing more to say. She turned and walked out of the cottage, the door closing behind her with a heavy thud. The night air was cold, biting at her skin as she made her way back to the village, back to the life she had always known, a life that now felt emptier than before. In the days that followed, Thomas left the village, returning to the city and the life that awaited him. Eliza watched him go from a distance, her heart breaking with every step he took away from her. She knew that she had lost him forever, that the love they had shared was now just a memory. Time passed, and Eliza tried to move on. She returned to the rhythms of her life, but the spark that had once filled her days was gone. She was haunted by the memory of what could have been, of the love she had lost not to death, but to the unchangeable circumstances of life. In the end, Eliza chose to remain in the village. She continued to help her family on the farm, to live the simple life she had always known, but the dreams that had once filled her heart were now just a distant echo, a reminder of the love she had lost and the man she could never forget.